Welcome to Yes Also. I'm Susie Barrett. My guest today is Casey Feigh. He's the founder of Holy Shit Improv. He's a frequent guest on Comedy Bang Bang, and he's a longtime UCB teacher, performer, and coach. He currently plays on ASCAT, and his team JV, which was formerly a Herald team, now has a monthly slot at UCB. Casey has been a truly formative part of the indie scene in LA. His show Crash Bar was one of the first indie shows to start up here. He produced an LA Indie Improv Festival for several years. And by live streaming all of his Holy Shit Improv shows, he's making LA Improv available to everyone in the world. Casey has strong ideas, not only about improv, but also about where it's headed and where it can be headed. He is a self-proclaimed improv point guard, and I loved hearing how his brain sees shows and scenes, and I think you'll find a lot of helpful stuff in here. We have some amazing pics of Casey on our Instagram feed at YesAlsoPod, and he wanted me to tack on an additional plug here. He's teaching a 6-week UCB class over Zoom that's about auditioning for commercials. He's been in approximately 1 million commercials, so if that interests you, jump on in there. And it's over Zoom, so you can take it from anywhere in the world. Okay, speaking of commercials, this one's over. Let's go to Casey. Hi, Casey. Welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here.
Yes.
Right before we started, you were saying that you've been thinking about your own improv lately.
Yeah. Do you do that
Yeah.
constantly, or do you let it go for a while? Do you get more into it at times, or?
I think more into it at times. I think certain shows make me think of it, or I go through slumps. Maybe like once every year or two.
Right.
But But what have you been thinking about?
Well, part of it is that I think the main show that I do is Holy Shit Improv, which is a show I put on, and so I can kind of do different things with that because I do produce it. So if I wanted to, but the thing I'm finding now is I'm lucky enough to be performing for a lot of packed houses, which is great.
Sick brag, dude.
Thank
Way to
you.
slip that in there.
No big deal, everybody. Sell out a lot of shows. So because of that, I want to hear laughter after every line. And I think that can lead me to playing a type of improv that isn't always my favorite, which I'm fine to do as a part of my improv. But if it becomes the only thing I'm doing, then I get a little frustrated by that.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I have JV, which is a former Herald team that now does a weekly show. So that's nice. Once a month, I do get to we still fall into those same feelings of a Herald kind of, where we'll do longer 2-person scenes. We'll maybe have a tag run, maybe explore some stuff, maybe do some group scene initiations. So there is that flexibility. But I do wonder, I guess that's the way I sometimes am feeling frustrated. It's not that I don't think the audience liked the show. I hope they did, but it's more that sometimes I feel like I am missing on the opportunity of building to something great to get a lot of little laughs.
Got you. You're frustrated with yourself because you've calibrated your joke machine, or your play is faster, harder, jokier, funnier.
Yeah, and I think and maybe it's a life thing too, because I'm currently trying to focus more internally and less externally. And I think maybe what I'm not liking about it is I'm focused externally in those moments. I'm focused on if the audience is laughing. And I think when I'm at my best in my improv, I'm totally internally. I'm totally this is a thing I love. This is a thing I like. I want to explore this. I want to heighten this. And I think sometimes now I'm at a point where I'm like, should I say a funny word so that I get people to laugh?
Wow, it's that calculated. You're able to kind of run that thought process.
A little bit, yeah.
That's a powerful brain, man.
Yeah.
I can't imagine having the bandwidth to run kind of 2 programs at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess. Yeah, I definitely do that in scenes. And again, it's because the show I'm running, I'm also inviting everyone to play with me. So there is a little bit, no matter what, in that show of me doing 2 things the whole time.
Yeah.
I am throwing a party at my house. I do want everyone to have a good time.
Yeah.
I do want to, I am very aware of who hasn't been in a scene yet. How can I initiate a way to make everyone feel comfortable? Maybe this person I'm realizing 2 scenes in kind of likes to play character and game might be throwing them. So they're not tagging into stuff. How can I initiate a scene that they can step into and feel confident? So I think maybe there's already a little of that going on in my head.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like that feeling, having a party at your house, you want everybody to have a good time. That's so relatable. And I have been in shows like that where it's like maybe I'm the one who knows all the people, but they don't know each other. So I'm very aware of like the chemistry or the, kind of being the glue of a show. Yeah, that puts me more in a seat that's less intuitive and less listening and more like controlling or like a mindfulness. Yeah,
totally.
Do you feel like this is carrying over now in your other shows, or is it that you're not doing enough other shows to kind of balance out the boat?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I think like I think what happens instead is when I do a JV show and we're done with it, I'm like kind of ready to, that's a team I feel comfortable picking it apart a little bit. That's a team I feel comfortable talking. That's the team where I'm like, because it's Friday night, I think people are paying like $25 to see that show or something. We usually have some sort of celebrity aspect, which helps. But I think there's a little bit more when we get off stage to me of being like, okay, some of those patterns didn't exactly, like there was one a few months ago where we're playing pattern right. Like we're playing the scene that was set up, but a lot of them like kind of the end result was like, not knowing or a lie or something. So like the end result wasn't as strong, as like a clear someone like, I hate that, I love that. It would kind of like fizzle a little bit. And I think I stepped off stage right away being like, I want to talk about this. Like, why are some of these scenes? And then other people on my team are like, I thought it was fun. I'm like, some people on my team like fly in to do the show.
Yeah.
And it's like, absolutely. How dare I be like, hey, let's really break down this thing and dig into it. Like,
yeah, let me make you self-conscious about this thing that you came to just have joy doing.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's like, there's multiple people on our team who like truly will like Sis is in DC right now. Gregor's shooting a movie in Atlanta. Like they fly in to like come and do the show.
Yeah.
And so I get that it's like fun and all that. And so I guess it's just me trying to realize, okay, this is a good show. Our shows are still good. Our shows are often great. But I guess I'm more interested with that group of like dissecting it and breaking it down because I probably want more from that show. Maybe,
you're needing more from that relationship because in the other relationship it's so one-sided, like on your side, like
right.
because you're the like producer and director or whatever. Yeah. So yeah, maybe a solution is to just play more shows that are not where you're in charge, where you can pick it apart or you can look at it or
Here's a question for you. Do you think you're at your peak right now of improv, or do you think your peak happened at a different time?
I'm hoping that I haven't reached my peak yet.
Great. Yeah.
I want to get better.
Yes.
I'm hitting a phase where I'm like, I want to take classes again.
Right.
I especially like at James's Sunset Social last night.
Yeah.
Craig Kukowski and Bob Dassey were there. Both of them were teachers of mine. Like as I was coming up, and both of them are now teaching classes at Weegis. And
right.
I was like, man, I gotta like get into your classes.
Right.
Like that sounds so wonderful to me. I crave notes
right.
again. I've hit sort of a plateau where I'm like, but what?
Right.
Else, you know?
And I've heard you on this podcast talk about practice, and I think like that is, I think the thing that I miss. And I was trying to think about honestly being like, okay, I get why I miss practice. 'Cause part of the reason I'm doing this is for community as well, and that's fun. But I was like, also, I think Rosenberg even said in the Q&A thing of like the favorite scenes are in practice, not in shows, and I agree with that too. And I was like, okay, so, but I was also trying to think, I was like, how would my shows be different if I practiced? And really the only thing I thought that I would come up with was I think I would be more willing to initiate in different ways if I had recent success of doing that.
Interesting.
Like because I'm mostly doing and it's also funny just how your improv changes. Like I now perform, my main show is like basically a jam. It's like people who have never played with each other getting up on stage. They all at some point were pros. They all at some point really grinded and worked hard. And maybe some of them still are. Who knows? But I think of like my younger improviser self being like a real good team is like a team. A real good team practices. Like I'm doing living room opening, which I think is like a younger version of me would be like, what a sellout. Like you're just
it's not a challenge.
You're just talking to each other. Like
yeah.
And I've now seen so many living room openings happening, and I'm like, yeah, because it's easy. I get it. And again, the reason I do it for my show is because I'm performing first. My team is hopefully by being online, we're showing this to people that have never seen this thing before, or by booking celebrities, I'm probably showing this thing to people who've never seen before. So like to me, a living room opening is like a soft welcome into what we're doing. It's like showing you something you've seen before. We're getting into it. Then I'm playing fast and tag. You're more almost stand-up-y a little bit, like the jokes hitting quicker and blah, 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 and all that. But anyway, it's interesting to like go back and be like, okay, I would love to practice. But my version of practicing is I teach once a week now. So like that's the thing that really helps me. Like if I'm in a scene that I'm not currently liking, then I can real quick Rolodex in my mind being like, what did I say and what did I say to my students this week?
Wow, like you are your own Yoda.
Well, I had many Yodas, and then now,
right, but
I've
you've
stolen
become,
everything. I've stolen everything they've given me, and now,
young Padawan has finally become his own,
That's right.
like sentient mirage. It's interesting that your take on practicing it's interesting that you know what would happen if you practice more. Like you're sitting here going like, what would happen is, for me, it's like the thrill of practice is I don't know what I will get out of it. I don't know what I'll learn because I don't know what the notes will be. Like I want to know what my blind spots are.
Right.
And you're so like able to go like, I'll tell you what will happen.
Well, maybe that's just what I would want to work on. Like maybe that's me being like, hey, I like my scene work. I like committing. There's exercises I'll work on. But what I think I would use exercise for, what I would use practice for would be because that was the thing that I really liked out of Herald practice was like when you would do something for a week or maybe 2 straight weeks, like let's just do all weird group games. Let's do all group Heralds. Let's do all whatever, just like some clear focus. And then you go do a show and you so easily see how that bleeds into your show.
Yeah.
Because you start doing these different group games. You start doing scenes that are more group heavy. And so I think like that is what I would, maybe that's what I'm missing ever so slightly from my current work is because no one I'm playing with practices, including me, then I am going to maybe even initiate slightly clunkier so that we're all on the same page and we can, because everyone I'm with is professionally funny. Everyone can teach comedy and or does teach comedy. So everyone is looking at a scene being like, what does this need? How can I help it? And that's going to make every scene be at least a B+. Scene's going to be successful. But I think there might be we could maybe live in the uncomfortability a little bit longer. We could maybe not frame the first thing as unusual. We could maybe make more choices earlier in a scene.
Slow down a little bit more about discovery and building something together rather than here's my fire hose premise.
Right.
Or like I'll declare the unusual thing very clearly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because we're all on stage together and it's like, why are we wasting? Someone pick something so we can all,
I mean, is it worth like the next time? Now it's like this is like improv therapy.
Yeah.
Would it be worth it, like when you're in your little huddle before the show, to be like, hey, I might not like initiate like super strong premises for everyone. Like I'm trying to lean towards some discovery scenes. If you guys want to go with me,
Totally. Yeah.
So people know what's. Yeah.
I think I would be like, yeah, cool.
Yeah.
I don't know if it would like. I think there's just like. Again, and part of it I do think has to do with like having a packed house. I also do think I look at improv a little different depending on what my show is. Like there are shows like where I'll just think of like if this is true, what else is true, and nothing else.
Yeah.
If I'm playing slower, if I'm maybe doing a mono scene, if I'm gonna get to do a 2-person scene that's gonna be 12 to 15 minutes. And I think that's not really the shows that I'm doing right now. So maybe I'm just missing that. But then I also go like, well, I booked my own show. I could do whatever I want. Like I could absolutely do like, holy shit, slows down, and then just does
holy shit, this is slow.
Right, exactly. And just like I could make that for myself.
And what is it about the packed house? Like that the silences feel more silent if they don't laugh at every line, that the patience is harder because you just got a big laugh on something and it was so loud and now it feels.
Yeah, I wonder if it's something like I feel maybe it just feels like a slightly different type of improv to me, and I think it's to me like doing comedy Bang Bang. When you go do something like that, I think there's like you don't have to have every line be a laugh. and maybe I'm approaching it poorly by thinking that way, but I do feel more that way.
Yeah.
And I think when I am doing a packed house and I'm performing first and I'm setting the tone and I have some maybe famous or well-known people that I'm playing with, and I want everyone to hear laughs early and often.
Yeah.
So it's chill and we can have fun and everything like that.
Yeah.
And so maybe it is that of like, and also maybe that's the promise of my show. Like I do think, I don't know. I think I'm very much like modeling a little bit of like the I think there's going to be an improv boom, like there's the 80s stand-up boom, and I do think the show that I'm putting on is maybe a little bit closer to stand-up, where it is like, yeah, it's going to be kind of joke heavy. You're going to have to you're going to follow. There's different tones. Different people have different tones, but we are going to like tag. We are going to try to not confuse you, but show you some new things that you have to pick up and start understanding what this thing is, so you can learn and hopefully get hooked on this thing. As opposed to, I think, like, there's another version of me showing improv to people that is also easy to take in, that is like doing one-act plays. Right. Where everyone plays one character. It's, lights up, lights down. We never change locations. Yeah. But first, in my head, for whatever reason, that feels like the next step.
Yeah. I mean, all of this feels like so right on to me. Like like your instinct of like just blasting out of a cannon with something that's accessible, palatable, super funny, very fast, and full of recognizable faces and names with a ton of variety. It's like each team does 15 minutes or whatever. It's like, it's such a great package, and you're live streaming it and building this audience. Yeah, a lot of them haven't seen improv before, or a lot of them haven't seen like LA improvisers or people like, who have trained for a long time. I think it's such a valuable thing for you to like be making this product, for lack of a better term. Yeah, I understand the feeling you're talking about, that like, because you're doing so much of that, it's like the other stuff, it feels, miscalibrated, or it's missing or something. But yeah, I think there would be room. Even on your Patreon, I could see like having then like another section of slow play or two prov or whatever. Yeah. But
and again, it is like a nice reminder of like, I can do anything I want. I'm on stage. I'm in control. I can do anything I want. And again, this isn't as much like, this isn't a constant problem. It's just something more recently. And I think I've back-ended how I learned it. I've learned that I have this problem that I'm currently thinking about by doing a thing on stage I don't like, which is laughing at the end of some of my lines, not because I think my lines are funny, but to like hear laughter,
to show the audience that it's funny. Yeah. Here's where a laugh goes. You're your own laugh track.
Like, I'm totally fine with a laugh where it's like, I recently pulled a specific from my childhood out of the back of my head that I was not expected, said it, got a laugh, and then even I was like, damn, and like laughed. It like surprised me. Like that laugh I got no problem with.
Can I ask what the specific was?
I think it was like a game, like I forget what it was even called. I knew it at the time, but it was like a pick up sticks game that I used to play, where you'd like drop a bunch of sticks, and then depending on where they landed, you got to pick ones that were touching or something. Yeah. But for some reason in the show, I knew the exact name of the game and like nailed it. I was just like, what the fuck?
We called it pickup sticks.
Okay,
like,
maybe that's what it is. Yeah, maybe that was it.
That's so funny. That's great.
And anyway, so the back version of that is me being like, just catching myself a little bit doing something that was a pet peeve of mine when I was grinding the hardest. Not to say that I think that, I also hope that I continue to get better at this, but I do wonder if like the best, because I think I was going to say the best maybe I ever was when I was on Herald Night and coaching a Herald team and doing a show, This Show's Not Funny, which was like long 2-person grounded scenes, and then could also do indie improv with my friends if I wanted to make a run at Cage Match or whatever, like I kind of had the nice mix of all that. And I was like, maybe, but I've definitely learned that I'm a much better performer since then. Like, I think even back then, I've now done some tour I've now performed in places that are not great to see improv in. I've done enough things where it's like, oh, okay, I can identify problems before we get on stage. Whereas back then I would have been reacting to problems more, Yeah. So I definitely think I am getting better, but I also was just like, ooh, and maybe it's just being like, maybe it's just realizing I've changed as an improviser. and being like, but it's just weird for me currently to do something every once in a while that was a pet peeve of mine at one time, and being like, ooh, that's, what's up with that?
Yeah. And it awakens the younger you inside that's internally like, Casey, we swore we would never laugh at our own jokes.
Right.
We said we would never lean on the back wall with our hands in our pockets. What are you doing?
Exactly.
You've forgotten me and everything we stand for. Yeah. What are some examples of, if you can think of any, of like getting ahead of a problem rather than reacting to it, like walking into a space that's not ideal? Or can you think of an example of?
Yeah, for sure.
Maybe it's valuable for our listeners if anyone's in these scenarios.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it's a lot of it is just like trying to obviously be in the moment when I'm in the show, but also be aware of the room that I'm in. Like, be aware of the crowd. Be aware of like, for example, the difference in my JV Friday show, and I should talk, like, we've been a team for so long that we do have those conversations. I think I maybe set up earlier that like people don't want to have those harder conversations. We absolutely talk about our show all the time of like, how does this show get better? And sometimes it was like, hey, we're offering a celebrity as part of our show. We're kind of promising the audience this celebrity. And sometimes the celebrity will talk for like 90 seconds and never be in our show again. Like that feels like maybe a problem. No one's telling us that it's a problem. No one is complaining as they walk out the door or anything. But it's like us identifying, like, I don't know if we're reaching the offer that we're giving people.
Yeah.
It's like, how can we feel? And so what we decided, we used to like leave the stage and let them tell the story, and then we'd come back on stage. And we decided, we're like, no, let's us stay on stage, so that if the storyteller feels like they gave enough to us, but we feel like maybe the audience hasn't gotten enough from them yet, we can offer up some questions. We can keep them on stage. We can, that's like a way that I'll kind of like look at that as be like, okay, is this a problem? It could be.
Yeah.
Other times, sometimes it's like, the house will be like, I'm now performing in different places. I'm starting to do Dynasty typewriter shows, which is like a much deeper stage, and they're much more further away from us than what I'm used to at UCB. And so like the smallest thing that I do every time I get there, I'm sure Dynasty's probably annoyed by it, but like they have like this little carpet area where it's like kind of the stage, and then they put the chairs like behind the carpet area. And when I walk in, I always put the chairs like on the carpet area. In other words, being like, let's not be this far back.
Yeah.
Let's make sure that we're in the top third of that stage, like really meeting the audience.
Yeah.
Because otherwise,
you mean the chairs that are on stage, just so the audience
basically
can,
what our back line is.
Right.
Because there's not like the back wall is not what we're using as our back line.
Yeah.
So I'm like pushing up the back wall by like 3 feet.
Yeah.
But it's so that I can connect to the audience more, and so that we don't feel, because one thing to have a slow scene or maybe an unconfident performer or a scene that isn't crushing, and you're very close to the audience. I think that's something different than crushing and being far away.
The worst.
It just feels so unconfident.
Yeah.
And now you could be funny for the whole rest of the show, but in my head as an audience member, I'm concerned for you. I use the example of like going to stand-up, just because more people do that. And it's like, you see a bad stand-up, they can actually have a really funny joke 4 minutes in, but if they've been bad and you're uncomfortable and worried about the whole room, you're never laughing at the joke 4 minutes in.
Yeah.
Like, you got it from the jump. Meet those people.
Yeah. Well, and it's easier, aside from just the perception of confidence, it's easier for the audience to connect to you and for you to connect to them if you're closer. Like, I remember when UCB opened the Sunset space, that was such a tough space to play in. It took me a long time to get used to it at all. And the tough thing was like that chasm between the stage and the first row. It was like a trench of like what would be an orchestra pit, maybe,
Yep.
Just like, feet of carpet. And it just felt like you were struggling to hear. Even when the audience was laughing, it was hard to hear the laugh because they were far away.
It's like a wave coming in and going out.
Yeah.
And we were used to a wave at UCB like surrounding us. We said like being drowned in a wave, whereas this is like it would come and it'd be later than you thought because you're used to being on top, and then it would go.
Yeah.
But then there was also like the other thing about that space was like that stage was way longer than what we were used to. And so it was like, okay, they've changed this thing. So now again, let me come downstage even more. And now let me make sure I'm using the fact that what can I do on this stage that I can't do on any other stage I perform? Oh, now I could truly do like 3 scenes happening at the same time and we could all have our own space.
Yeah.
We could do whatever. Like there's a lot more of that type of play.
Yeah, like how to use this to our advantage.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, some tour shows are a nightmare because of like the stage is so deep and so wide that in order to fill the room that you're in, you have to kind of spread out, but then tags are really hard because like I have an idea, but I can't run that distance at the speed of my idea to tag out the person in time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also found like sometimes I'll be like, okay, this space is weird, or maybe this place doesn't know improv as much. Direct address comedy might be better here. And I learned that from like doing Hip Hop Penguin, which was like we'd talk to the audience. We'd like directly look in the audience and sometimes tell them like, this next scene is going to be, or if we liked a scene, we'd be like, wasn't that scene hilarious? Like, but it was like by directly looking people in the eyes and talking to them, it's like bringing them into the show.
Right.
And so that's a thing that I can do sometimes in shows of being like, okay, this audience, maybe we need to like, that's a thing that I probably do at Dynasty a little bit more is like look out and cheat out to like look at them in that sense. So like, yeah, those are the kind of things that I'll be like thinking about.
Yeah. That's great. I totally forgot about Hip Hop Penguin. We'll take a quick pause I want the audience to hear what this show was. It was so great, and then we'll reverse and go through your story.
Great. Yeah, it was. This most things came that have had any success for me came out of just like wanting to do something with my friends. So this was like TNT, which was the first indie show, had a March Madness tournament, and so me and two friends signed up. And I guess we picked this name. I don't know. But the original idea was pretty bad. We weren't that connected to the culture, obviously. And so we but we were trying to be like hip hop improvisers was kind of the idea.
Wasn't it sort of done as like school assembly a little bit?
We found that after because we won the tournament, and so we had like a weekly slot at TNT for the whole month of April or whatever it was. And so then we started doing these weekly, and like the original jokes we had that were kind of like hip hop jokes felt weirder and grosser and bad as we went along. And so we started practicing a little bit. And one thing, Drew DeFonso Marks, I think he only coached us one time, but the one thing, he like knew nothing about hip hop at all. And the one thing he's like, what if it's like positive? Like, what if you're like playing on the thing? And so like we flipped and became like school presenters.
Yeah.
Which then kind of fit who we were a little bit better. Cause then it's like people trying to be cool rather than us thinking this is,
and it fits with like doing little improvised vignettes.
Yes, and teaching lessons. That was the whole thing. Everything would be a lesson. So like that's how we kind of like edit stuff was like teaching lessons. But what it did for me, what I liked about what I got out of it in a real positive way was and this was a long time ago, but I was approaching my character as if it was Kanye West doing improv. So and this was the time when he was like interrupting people at award speeches. This is when he would, this is, back when he was unstable. No. But he was like,
what do you mean a time when?
Well, he was just so confident. He was like so confident. And so like bringing that to the stage and being that confident and like truly like someone would do something funny in a scene and we'd like give each other a high five or like turn to the crowd and be like, wasn't that fucking fun? Maybe we didn't say fucking, I don't know. But so that really helped me in a way of like, oh, the audience does dig this. And then again, direct address stuff, that was most of what we did because we'd, be teaching lessons at the end of everything. And having just playing with that level of confidence and being like, wow, everyone enjoyed that level. Everyone felt comfortable watching that level of confidence in a way that I wasn't sure they. And it's like, no, people fucking dig that.
Because you guys were confident about the dumbest stuff.
Sure, yeah.
So it'd be like, did you get that? Right. Don't eat Cheetos before a math test or whatever.
Yeah.
Like the just
after
dumbest.
a crazy long scene to try to pretend like you taught a lesson in that dumb scene. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Taking one detail from the scene and it's like that's the lesson.
Yes.
It's like what? Yeah.
But again, like I think the thing that connects to now with me, my current teaching of students is like a lot of the people I'm trying to teach now is that idea that like perfection isn't that funny. Like perfection at best is like impressive, but oftentimes can be boring to watch. Whereas like being honest and being real and being vulnerable is like funny. Like making a mistake and going like, oh, I messed up, gets a laugh. But like being afraid to ever make a mistake like keeps you on the back line or like nothing happens,
Right.
And so I think that is kind of like that thing that I'm now talking about that's using a little bit of that, I think, from what I learned. Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see how everything plays out with your like frustration about like the style of play with laugh, how that marries with that. Because that in a way is like, that is perfect by some measure because it's like a laugh every 20 seconds.
Right.
But like the other style, like what you just said, like you don't have to like you can have a relationship and be honest, and that can be funny too.
Yeah, for
It's
sure.
like, yeah, that'll be interesting if that's if teacher Casey seeps into your head next week when you
Absolutely.
I want to reverse and
Right.
talk about your origins. I know you grew up a theater kid, a musical kid.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yep. Did theater, and then I went to college and kind of thought. I guess I had the wrong idea about college. I thought you find out what you love at college. You know, I didn't think that I might have already loved the things that I loved, and you just continue to pursue them and stuff. So I truly did nothing I enjoyed in college. I didn't do any theater. I didn't. They had an improv team. I went to it once, and I wasn't that impressed by it, and just kind of like meh. So I mostly just like partied, and then like would take like a photography class, be like, am I supposed to be a photographer? Or like just like tried stuff. And it was fine, but college wasn't. But then I eventually was like, what I like is like throwing parties. I like I like sending a funny email that like gets people to come over to a keg or like someone's house or something.
So you did find what you would end up doing.
So I kind of did, a little bit. It was like, I guess it's happened a few times in my life, is like just realizing what's already my skill set. Like COVID was another example of that, when it was like everything went away, and be like, okay, but what is my skill set? Like what can I bring? What can I make money out of? It's like, oh, maybe it's not creating something new. Maybe it's like just pulling the stuff I've already been doing and amplifying it. But so yeah, I did that in college, and then I ended up becoming an event coordinator at the Mall of America, based off my throwing parties thing. Just like I was like, I can.
You grew up in Minnesota.
Grew up in Minnesota. Yeah. So that wasn't too far of a move for me. I worked there for a couple years. Ended up running the community relations department, which was like all the charity events they did there, like the Race for the Cure, JDRF, also the Vikings pregame show. Like I think when I was the 1 year I was in charge of the community relations, I think they made $10 million for different charities.
Wow.
And then I moved to Australia and wrote a terrible screenplay, tried stand-up for the first time, and was like, okay, yeah, I think I'm going to try this comedy thing.
What inspired the Australia tangent?
It was following my dreams, but I didn't want to admit my dreams to anyone. I did it all in steps. So like I eventually could tell people I wanted to be a writer, but I couldn't say I wanted to be an actor yet, because where I grew up, that felt to me like being like, I'm pretty, And so I had to be like, writing is a skill. I can show people, but I also knew I wasn't going to write anything for a long time, so I didn't want to tell people I'm moving to somewhere to be a writer. So I was like, I'm just moving to Australia. No one asks any questions.
Right.
And what made me do that was working at the Mall of America. There was a guy who was the head of our IT department, and he was bad at his job, but no one ever fired him. And that somehow made all my dreams like achievable. Like I was like, oh yeah, I could probably do comedy in LA. Like, or I didn't know LA at the time, but I was like, I could probably do comedy. Like I wasn't on the Lampoon. I didn't go to NYU. I'm not, but I bet if I hang around at the happy hours, I can write on a Nickelodeon show after enough time,
yeah, if that guy can keep his job, I can do literally anything.
Yeah, just like they're all jobs.
Yeah.
Like, the dream of Hollywood or whatever, it's also just a bunch of people with jobs.
Yeah.
And there's certainly people that have those jobs who aren't that good at them or don't deserve them. I think I had been so focused on like I was a comedy nerd, so like knowing the Conan trajectory, knowing the Bob Odenkirk, knowing the, and I was like, I'm not on Second City main stage. I'm not, like all these things that I kind of felt like, whoops, I didn't do. And so then I was like, oh, but yeah, okay. I bet if I'm nice to people, eventually someone will hire me to do something.
I can job my way into a better job and then a better job. And in the meantime, I can learn how to write and do it well. And yeah. Okay. So you go to Australia with the goal of working in the Australian TV industry? No, just gonna go
be there for a year. Like I really liked my life in Minnesota, so I was like, moving away seems scary. If I move where I know no one to the other side of the world, then like moving somewhere else in America doesn't sound that bad. I was deciding between Chicago or LA. And I was like, I'm gonna write a screenplay. And my big thing was like, I'm gonna try stand up because I'm doing this to be funny. I think I'm funny. I need to do it. But because it mattered to me so much, I was there for 10 months, and I did it on like my second to last night. I did my stand up special, or my special. I call it a special because I taped it. Yeah, it went okay. Like I definitely had a joke that still works. It's a decent joke. And then the problem was I my first like 2 minutes was like trying to justify why I'm an American, and so that was all new stuff that I didn't go that well. And I also watched it not too long ago, and I also swear a ton. I was like just cursing up a storm. Yeah, like I thought that was cool. Maybe that's what people were doing back then. I don't know.
How old were you? What year was this?
I would have been like, let's see, 2 years out of college. So I'd have been like 24, 25.
Yeah. That's also, I feel like, that demographic.
That's true,
too.
yeah.
It's kind of how young guys talk.
Yeah, that's true. And so so I did it, and it went decent enough that I was like, okay. I had a friend out in L.A. and I called him, and he was doing comedy, and I was like, hey, I'm thinking about Chicago or L.A. And he's like, because you have a marketing background, he's like, if you move to Chicago, you might just get a marketing job and like kind of try it, but not really try it. He's like, if you move out here, you'll do it. You'll have to. He's like, and I know where the good open mics are. And I was like, the good open mics? How can I turn down such a great offer?
You had me at good.
Yeah. So I moved out here instead. And I was doing stand up just to be like, I'm trying to prove to people I'm funny so I can get a job doing comedy. So I didn't have a desire to like work the road. I didn't have the desire to be like the world's famous stand up, but I was like, this is how I've seen people prove that they're funny and then get work writing and acting and stuff like that.
Gotcha. So that was your door that you were gonna. Yeah. How did it go?
Pretty good. I did stand up for about 3 or 4 years. I was just starting to get comfortable when I stopped, in fact, because I started in LA, so every show would be like 3 to 5 minute slots. And so it takes like a year of, because I took a UCB class because I knew nothing, and I thought if I was funny in class, I truly knew nothing. I thought the cool stand-up show at that time was called Comedy Death Ray, which is now Comedy Bang Bang. But I was like, if I'm funny in class, Matt Besser will hear about it and book me on Comedy Death Ray. Like, he would book Comedy Death Ray. That's not how things work. But that was like my whole idea. So I took improv for that purpose, just to say. And then for 101 class show, you get to do like 25 minutes on stage. And I was like, I have not got this amount of stage time in my year.
You're like grinding stand-up for an entire year just to build up to 5 minutes. Yeah.
And it's all, and like there's no crowds. And at this time, improv was new enough and exciting enough in LA that like I would do these stand-up on mics where it was just the comics and everyone had a terrible time and no one's listening. We're all stressed out about our own act. It's not even being mean. It's just like, they're just not there. We're all there for our own selves. And then I'd do these improv shows. There's only one that I could do at the time, but it was packed, and they would give you 30 minutes. Yeah. And it was like, oh my goodness, this is like, I was truly just like thinking for what I was trying to do, which was I was trying to let everyone in this town know that I was funny. And I was like, there's more people at these shows and I get more time, so I should pursue this rather than stand up. And then my friend at the same time, who I met in 301, Jacob Womack, was like, do you want to put some groups together and like, try this? And I was like, yeah, so long as I was living in a house with stand-ups, we would go out every night and do shows, or at least 6 nights a week we'd do shows. So I was like, if you're willing to like grind in the same thing of like 6 nights a week, we either have a practice or we have a show where we go see a show.
Wow.
And he's like, totally. And so I just like brought that stand-up mentality to improv, and at that time almost no one else was doing that, so we were able to like get good pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And then saying yes to opportunities. Someone drove a car through the IO front door, and so they shut down, and our indie team had one show in like the way upstairs at probably like 11 p.m. on a Tuesday night or something, but they sent out an email to everyone who had a show that entire month being like, hey, if you since the theater's closed, there's this other guy who owns a theater on La Brea. They didn't say this guy's a scam artist, but they're just like, this guy has a theater, and if you want to put up your show there, you can put up your show there, and he'll work out a deal with you. And we were like, yeah. And so we started running a show, and then I was running a weekly show for like 4.5 years.
Yeah, you guys called the show Crash Bar.
Yep.
The origin being IO's bar getting crashed into by a drunk driver.
And it was like a fundraiser. Again, I knew that the tricks from like being a producer at the Mall of America and in stand-up is like how you get people to come to shows is have it be a competition or have it be a charity event. Like then people come, then people don't care about paying money. Then so it's like, all right, we'll do a charity fundraiser for the bartenders and people who can't work at IO, which was true. Like that's where the money went. But it was like that was the whole purpose, to get people there, and it got great people there. And then it was like,
worked on me.
And it was also just like, oh, I'm not a constant thing with my thing. I think most people's like, no one's asking me to do stuff. So if I want to do stuff, I have to make stuff. I have to be the one who's like putting it on, and then I get to do it.
Yeah.
If I want to do a show every week, and that was the thing that happened in COVID. I remember UCB's like, well, as a team, even before UCB decided if they were coming back, what they're doing, we all talked, and like my Herald team, JV, was doing a weekly Friday show, and everyone was kind of like, I think once a month would feel good. That's what everyone on the team wanted, and I was like, okay. I was like, I want once a week.
Once a month practice?
Show.
Oh, show.
Just a show. Just doing one show a month feels like what everyone was looking for. And I was like, cool. I was like, I want once a week. I want to perform once a week. And so I was like, so then I came out of COVID being like, okay, I have to generate 2 or 3 more opportunities for myself to do what I want. And so then that's how I started Holy Shit Improv, was just like, we were going to do a JV one-off show, and then there was like a COVID spike, and everyone kind of got scared. I was like, I don't know if we should put a show on. And I was like, all right, I'm still going to put a show on.
Yeah.
And so then I just took it over.
In my perception, your show was one of the very first ones to come back after like the world had been shut down and the theaters still weren't open yet. Like UCB
like Pantages was
open.
doing shows, like huge theaters were doing shows, but no improv.
No improv,
anywhere.
right.
Stand-up had been on for a long time, and I was like, I got it. Like, we are like spitting in each other's mouths and stuff on stage. But I was like, I feel comfortable enough. I feel ready enough.
Yeah.
So then I did it.
And you talk about this process because you started putting it up just like at a bar, like no one had done improv there before.
Yeah.
I feel like this DNA is in you from your like, is this from your Mall of America days where you just kind of have the balls to be like, well, I'll call this guy and ask if we can do a show there, or I'll just that sort of just like very matter of fact producerly quality.
Yeah, again, it's like I don't love it, I don't love producing, but I think it is that one of the things I do like about myself is like I'm not gonna sit around blaming other people. So like, if I want something, then like I'm gonna take steps towards doing it. And it was like a clear decision I made of like, I want to do this thing. I want to perform more. And then also, again, like I think UCB, they were reopening and like no one knew who they were going to invite to do anything. No one knew what it was going to be. No one even knew if they were going to reopen. It could have been gone forever. And so like, I'm a belief of, I've had friends who got burnt out who feel like they got used by theaters. And I learned very quickly to be like, I need to use these theaters. So this is an opportunity. UCB being a great example. It's one of my, if not my favorite stage in town.
Yeah.
It's on a block that has like 3 bars, maybe 4 now, with restaurants for like weekends, people being on dates and stuff. It's a cool neighborhood. There was a time when LA Weekly did like a most likely to meet a celebrity, and it was like the Gelsons that's a block away from there. So it's a cool place for a lot of things. And so it's like, okay. And I have gotten direct work off performing on that stage. And so it's like, I've for a long time been like, okay, I'm not going to let them use me. But I can use this. I can use this as an opportunity. So this is an opportunity for me. And for most people that perform there, it's always available to you. Like if it doesn't work out, they might not be pumped to have you back, and maybe you don't get to do it again, but it's always available to you no matter what, even if you feel like you burned a bridge.
You mean to pitch a show?
Yeah. Just like, or anything. But there's almost part of me, it's like I should have been focused this hard on like NBC's comedy lineup or something, like rather than just spending all my energy of like trying to figure out how to get in with UCB. But it really, that was the place that like the shows I saw there inspired me. The people that were popping out of there, that's what I wanted to do. And so it was like, okay, let me figure out a way to use this place. And so it was like, okay, I don't know if they're going to want me back. I truly don't know if they're going to even want my team back. I don't know what they're going to, when they reopen, I have no idea. But if I'm a value add, if I'm bringing something, then it's going to be bad for them to not have me be a part of it, right? So like if I'm bringing some, Herald auditions is a classic example. Like you can go in there and be undeniably funny, or anything in Hollywood. I just think UCB is like the first lesson we learn of greater lessons in the industry. So it's like you can go to Herald auditions and be like undeniably funny and get on a team. Some people do that. I'd say a small percentage of people do that. What more people I think do to get on a team is they create something that is so cool in LA and people are talking about it and people like it, that UCB goes, we want to be a part of your cool thing. Come do your cool thing at our place. And then now you're already kind of a part of there, and now you're auditioning for a Herald thing. And of course you have good scenes, but it's also like, yeah, we already love this person. They're already cool and they're already bringing value to our theater. Like, so let's let them do this other thing at our theater. So that was like my focus was like, okay, I want to like create something. And then the live stream, the filming of it was like coming out of COVID as well, a little bit being like, I mostly do commercials. I had a pilot that got to go. We got to shoot it. It was like so great. And then COVID, basically the network just like stopped making new programming. They just did Big Brother reruns instead. And so I had like, it was almost demoralizing of like, oh, there's like lists that I'm not on and that I'm not going to get to be on, to audition for things, to create things. Like there's like, by being that close, I realized how far away I was in a weird way too.
What do you mean what you realized there were lists?
Like there's literally lists. Like if it's like, we got a pilot that was through CBS Productions. So then it was like, here are the people CBS says should be auditioning for pilots, you know? And it was like, okay, these are people that did JFL. These are people that have been on shows. These are celebrities. And we could bring in a couple of we could, you know, throw 3 slots to friends who maybe they didn't know about and cool, but like they weren't going to get it, I don't think, you know?
Right.
And just being like, oh yeah, this is like everything, you know, there's, I don't feel like I'm the type of talent that is like, blowing people away or be like, we gotta, you know, we need to, who is that person, you know? And so I was like, okay, well, how can I get opportunities? Because I know this is a good place. I know this theater does work. I know I have got work from performing at this theater. So I was like, okay, well, if I can create a show where I am performing with people who are on these lists, then maybe they'll just confuse and think that I am on this list too, you know, like,
yeah.
Or the other way around is like, you jump the list, because the nice thing about Hollywood is like, while there are all these gatekeepers, if you get the one person, if Judd Apatow's like, I want to make something with you, you get to make something, you know? So I was like, okay, well then maybe if I'm putting up shows here with good people and they come to see Darcy, they come to see whoever, and then I'm there too and like, wow, oh, I'm interested in that, then maybe I don't have to do the create characters for JFL and get in front of and take meetings and meet casting people and blah, 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 blah. So that was kind of like the idea. And then the live stream became like, to me, I'm just like, I'm on my phone 7 hours a day now when I look at my like thing, you know, for the week. And so it's like, I think to me, I felt like the improv community was doing what Second City did a long time ago, which was they used to use improv to create sketches, but they didn't think improv was the art form itself. And I thought enough people, including UCB, were like, no, improv is the art form itself. But then they're like, but don't try to make money off it. Like instead, just freak out at whether you can get a TV show writing job or. And my thing is always like, the only difference between a writer on a TV show and someone on a Herald night is that the writer is getting paid lots of money from a corporation.
Yep.
In both places, they're going to Big Bear for a bonding trip. In both places, no one's watching the work they put out. In both places, they're making fun of improv an awful lot. And so I was like, oh, I don't know, this might be a tangent, but I was frustrated with like, we shit on podcasts and we shit on improv the most. And I was like, those are the things we have the most control over. Whereas like being in a commercial in the Super Bowl is cool. And I think sometimes people are appreciating that because a lot of people are seeing our friends and that's fun. But I think it's really that they know that person is making money right now. I think that's why we're so excited by that. I think that's why we're excited when a friend makes a TV show or movie. It's like they're making money now. Like a corporation is giving them money. And so I was just like, it's crazy that we're purposely keeping money out of improv.
Yeah.
But I have a lot of people who like don't like the live stream thing. I've had people don't like that I posted on a Patreon, then it stays up there forever. And part of that I think is a new thing. It's fear. I get it. And I try to use examples of like, again, I go back to stand-up a lot because, you know, I think people have a better understanding of that. I'm like, look, I get that like being at a live improv show is always the most fun. But if you've ever been to a stand-up taping, if you've ever been to a multicam taping, they're fun. They're more fun live than watching them on TV. But that doesn't stop people from creating them, producing them, and making money off them.
Right.
And I think like I've seen friends that are so funny who left LA because they couldn't get money in television and film. And I'm like, they could have got money in improv if we allowed money to come into improv.
Yeah, if improv paid anything. Yeah, I mean, for the longest time, shows didn't even pay. Now they pay like a tiny amount.
Totally. I mean, the reason we stopped doing our indie show that we ran for 4.5 years was because we were all under the agreement that no one makes money off this.
Yeah.
If one of us would have been like, hey, and then we ran the LA Indie Improv Festival for a few years, and then the same thing was like, we had to create a bank account. We had to become like a corporation. No one was making money off this. We had to make a website. We had to like have a schedule. Like, why? And I get it, because UCB originally was $5 and $8 for tickets. I get it. They weren't making money at the place. But I think like now it's like, okay, let's make money. Let's at least offer up the opportunity to make money in this thing, so that, because I do believe it is the art. I do believe improv is the end result. I don't think I'm not doing improv solely so that I can be seen to book a TV show. That's in my back of my mind because TV shows pay so much money, you know. But if I could truly make a good living doing improv, then like that would be enough for me. I love it that much. It is, and it is like, it is. I get to write, I get to direct, I get to act all at once.
Yeah, I'm the same. It would be the ultimate. If it paid a living.
Yeah. And so that's why that's my big live stream thing. Which again, I'm open to people who have negative opinions about it or don't like it, but my thinking is just like. And there's a little bit of privilege there, I think. Pardon me and other people who came up in older generations. But I think there's a little bit of like, it was cool that you had to go to these 2 seedy basements in New York or LA or Chicago. And you had to, be able to afford to be poor for a little while and have parents supporting you or whatever.
Yeah.
And I think there's something to be like, what if it's just available to everyone? Everyone gets to see it. And then I think there'll be that stand-up boom like the 80s where people see it. Everyone will start doing it in their own hometowns. People, because they can see it, can start having favorite improvisers who aren't just in TV and movies. And that, like, I love what Ben Schwartz is doing. It's like, it's still Ben Schwartz and friends, of course, because that's what sells the ticket. But it's like, but he's performing with friends. And now you start loving those people. And then they start doing tours. And then now this, and that's like, again, following that stand-up model. The versions of, one is to, like my original, I guess, idea to move to LA, do comedy to prove that I'm funny, to get writing and acting work. And the other version is like, no, be so good at stand-up that you can tour the country and the world doing stand-up. Yeah. And we can do that with improv if we just like allow more people to see it.
Yeah. What you cracked with this, or I guess what Drew Spears cracked with his, like, because he's the one who live streams it. You finally cracked the problem that has existed for decades, which is improv was never capturable on film in a good way. It was always like, blown out from the lights. You see like glowing people on stage, but you can't really see their facial expressions. Shot from the tech booth. The sound is terrible. The audience is louder than the performers. Just like, and looks almost, it's just like 2-dimensional, flat, does not capture it. Yeah. And what you guys do with your shows, what Drew has set up, is like multiple cameras, and he live cuts it, right?
Yeah, we
like
have a director who's currently, now it's someone that UCB is handling for that show, and someone at Dynasty does it. But and then they'll go back in and be like, oh, that joke actually didn't hit because we were looking at the wrong camera. Before we put it up on our Patreon, let's switch over to this camera and use this instead.
But they're sitting there the same way like a live TV director does, where they cut between camera 1, camera 2 to get
and they're all
the
on mics, and
reactions.
they're like, hey, Alec, will you kind of zoom in a little bit, get that be a 2-shot, and talking to each other.
I didn't know that. Where are they? Where's their control room? Are they in the tech booth?
They used to be back in the green room with us, but now that UCB does it, UCB built a space that's like above birds. There's like an office. There's a guy back there. He's sitting. He's got these monitors. He's got all of our cameras up, and he's doing it.
That's
from there.
Cool. Wow, like a real television studio. Yeah.
And again, I think it's like. I don't know. I'm a big proponent of it. Yeah. I get not everyone putting all their shows online, especially if it's not like. But I just think like there was a moment in my life where I was afraid. I think of whether like what am I doing? Is pursuing improv like just that? Like what am I doing? I'm pursuing improv. I kind of want to be able to have money and take vacations, and I just had this belief. I was like, I think if I'm the 50th best in anything in the world, or even in America, maybe I think I can make money off it. Yeah. Like you hear about those towns where it's like, I don't know. Our town had like a really great flute program because there was this lady who was like awesome at the flute, and she taught all the kids in town to do flute. So I was like, worst case, if I feel like I can get so good at improv that I feel like, all right, I can always go start a theater somewhere. I can go teach it or something. But now the current version of it is this, of being like, okay, I think I'm pretty good at it. I think I have a real good handle on this. So let me perform with other really good people, and let me show this to people. Right. And let me see if I can ride that out. Like since my pilot went down, I like really haven't really been that excited by that path anymore of like creating work. This feels like I'm putting my money towards creating this thing.
Was the pilot to just tie up that loop? Like, was it something you wrote and created?
Yeah. I wrote it actually with only ever happened just because I did UCB stuff. Truly, like I was on a Herald team with Dan Greger. He'd been on a lot of great shows, written on a lot of stuff, and wanted to do more directing because he had a movie he wanted to direct. And I think Lionsgate or someone was like, we'll let you direct it, but we need to see more of your materials. And so UCB was doing like, what was it called? What do they do? Digital teams? Beta teams. Oh, yeah. Beta teams. Yep. And so I applied to be a writer, and he was like, and I found out he's applied to be a director. I was like, really? He's like, yeah. And I was like, straight up, I just want to be in rooms you've been in. That's my goal. And he's so great to work with. He's so smart. And And so we both had interviews. Mine was at a different time, but for mine, truly every question they'd be like, so what kind of comedy do you want to write? And I was like, whatever Dan Greger wants to write. And he's like, so what kind of, like, would you rather do like some more spoof stuff, or like, do you know what Dan Greger's interested in? Because I truly just wanted to work with Dan Greger. Like, it was like to the point at the end, they're like, so it sounds like you want to work with Dan Greger. And
only if Dan Greger says he wants to work
exactly.
with Dan Greger, then I agree.
Then I'm in.
Yeah.
And they didn't put us on a beta team. Neither of us got on one.
Whoa.
But they were like, we made up this thing where you guys can make a web series. There you go. And like gave us no money, no help, no. Eventually, we had to like beg to use a location of UCB. But anyway, we made a web series off an idea that Dan Greger had, and we shot it. And it was basically like Betsy Sidaro is the new Virgin Mary, and she didn't want to be. She did not want to have kids, and then and so that was basically we shot it, we made it, and then we sold it, and we got to shoot it again. Betsy got to play the same part again for the pilot. It was great. And then just like stock prices and pandemics and stuff made it disappear. And it was just like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, that happens,
Yeah.
And then we sold it in the room as a movie idea. To our like production company that helped build it. Like, yeah, we want to take out, we want to compete in these big multi-million-dollar comedy thing space. And we're like, great. But CBS won't give up the rights unless they give them $1 million for us to write a script, and so that's never going to happen.
Yeah,
so it's just like,
insane?
so it's like that's the end.
So that dropping out of that, like the bottom dropping out of that, was such a blow and so discouraging after all the work you put into that. It just kind of feels like that's not worth it to climb that mountain anymore, because like you get to the top and somebody slaps you and you fall back down to the bottom again.
Yeah, kind of. But also again, I get like yes, kind of. But I think like I don't know if it was that harsh. It might at times it might have been, but I think it was more like I always want to have something. I always want to be building towards something. Hopefully multiple things. But again, going back to like this being like, oh, this came out of being on a Herald team with Dan Greger, or selling a pilot to Comedy Central came out of having a sketch group with my friends called Cream, and we only started that because we wanted to do the UCB's 3-on-3 competition, and my friend Sergio, Jacob Womack, and myself thought we were the cream of the crop of students. So we submitted ourselves as Cream. Didn't even get in the tournament. No one knew who we were. And so then anyway, so like everything comes from like me doing something with friends that I want to do. And so I think that's the same thing with Holy Shit Improv. Like, okay, this is what I want to do. And I think, there might have been, I guess I kind of believe if you're in TV and movies right now, great. Absolutely. Make money in TV and movies now. But I don't think there's too many new people that are going to make a ton of money in TV and movies.
Yeah.
It feels like the industry is not going that direction. So like I could keep trying to get into something where I've been out here for 16, 17 years now, and I've had a little success. I certainly get in TV shows every once in a while and do a lot of commercials mostly. But maybe the better thing is to like get ahead of it and try to figure out where the next thing is, and like how can everyone loves this thing, and I think because AI is getting bigger and movies and TVs are going away, I'm drawn to live theater. And if I am, maybe other people are.
I've been singing this from the rooftops lately, that like as AI starts eclipsing the entertainment sphere, improv is going to be the best thing there is.
It's real.
I mean,
it
already is great, but like, for it's going to be, I think it's going to be so crucial to have it like literally everywhere. It's going to be so necessary because this is maybe like 10 years from now.
Sure.
People will so be craving to know whether or not the thing they're looking at was made by a machine or not, and to know whether it's like actual expression or not, and to know, and to watch people create stuff off of something you talked about. Like that's not a computer. It's right there.
And to be in the room, maybe if you
be
get that
in the
chance.
room, right? Yeah. So I think Holy Shit is helping to spread that, like, scenes are now able to, not that you're like the only game in town, but,
totally.
but people are able to access these shows and get better and watch different techniques and stuff. So it's great. It's like spreading the gospel a little bit.
Absolutely. And I also think it's a little bit of like trying to get more people paid, because now I work with Drew Spears Productions, and it's like he now hires 4 people to shoot these shows. And so now between me, him, and 4 other people, that's like people that it's not paying all of our rent right now, but it's like that's helping again, that fear of COVID where it's like, hey, I'm doing great with money. I could not work for a year and I'd be fine. Whoa, that happened? Like, oh shit, now what? And so just like having that, like I just have a simple goal of like, I got to make $6,000 every month. And so like by producing this show, then there's like, okay, 2 of that can usually be taken care of if I put on good shows, and I'm giving out 50% of the money I make to the performers too. So it's like, there's a way that I could be more capitalistic and try to make more money on this. But it's like, no, that's not exactly the whole point of it. My part of the point is to give people money, to like truly keep more people in LA who are talented and funny and good, because I like hanging out with talented, funny, good people, and I love watching them perform. And if everyone has to leave because they didn't book a pilot or because they can't get into a writer's room, then it's like, that feels like a mistake to me. So let's see if we can't try to like, make money. And part of it is like, there's absolutely, I understand part of this is me leveraging people who are famous to be a part of this. Like that, those shows do make more money, certainly on the live streams, especially if it's like, if you have a following and you come do my show, then like the trickle down is the other 18 people on my show got paid a decent amount for that day, and I think that's so cool. And if I could continue to have that, but I also get the fear of like those people being the most likely to be like, I don't want to be live streamed, I don't want to be recorded.
Right.
But for me, I just go back to like, I don't know, I think you're all so good. And of course, yes, I don't know how your life works, and maybe you have crazy fans, and I get it. But like, I think everyone I'm asking is so good at improv, especially, that like, there is nothing I can imagine them doing on that stage for 100 people that would get them canceled or would get them, or would, cause a big problem in their life. To me, it feels like, but again, that's not my concern, and I understand why they have it.
Do you show anyone like a cut before it goes up on?
I've made deals with some people where I'll be like, how about we don't live stream yours? If you don't like it, I won't put it up. And then we've put it up every time. They've never had a problem with that.
Gotcha.
But I am trying to push for more people to do it, so that really just there can be more money in this thing, and then we can actually like, I guess I just really I am so over making fun of improv.
Yeah.
Like
you keep saying this. Who is this? Because you hung out with a lot of stand-ups?
No, this is like, just watch any television show. Watch a comedy.
Right.
And like, there's going to be, in a run of any season, there is going to be jokes about people doing improv. And those people that are writing those jokes are improvisers.
Oh, weird.
It's people who did the thing. It's people who had the love of this thing. And then now, because they're making money for Fox or HBO Max or whatever, they're like, isn't it so stupid when I used to not make money?
Right.
And it's like, maybe, but also, isn't it stupid now you get notes from all these people? Isn't it stupid now that they cast people that aren't even as talented as the people you want to put in your thing? Isn't it stupid that like, there's so many stupid shit that you have to deal with by working with a corporation? What about the joy and when you had 100% creative control to write, direct, act, all in a scene with your friends and on stage? And like, yes, of course, there's, but that's like a thing that I just think is silly.
Of course, yeah. I guess I don't watch enough TV.
I mean, I don't really watch TV
any
either.
TV.
Yeah, I know. That's another thing. Yeah.
Yeah, but when you said the trope of that, I'm like, no, I can picture somewhere in the recesses of my. I can see how that. Yeah.
Podcast is another one. Again, I get it. There's too many podcasts. Another guy with a podcast. I get it. It's all very funny. I'm not saying that I won't laugh at those jokes or whatever. But to me, it's just like, I think that is capitalism. I do think we are making fun of things where you have control, and we are elevating things that corporations have control. Yeah.
Man, that's the patriarchy at work in our subconscious. Like, I'm going to tease that thing. It's like, but wait, that's the proletariat. Like, you have power there. Like, that microphone can be in your hand. Yeah.
Two buddies are making a podcast that only gets 3 downloads.
Yeah. Okay. Who cares? They're having fun.
I think it'll probably just disappear and won't affect anyone in any way.
Right. Well, that's the thing. Like, you and I are sitting in this living room right now having a great conversation. It doesn't matter where it goes or what it does, and it's not hurting anyone. Like, how is this, like, affecting literally anyone? Yeah. It doesn't take resources from anyone. And
my jaded perspective is, like, it's a way to keep people from trying things. It's like, I've had podcast ideas, and I have to, if I want to pitch someone my podcast idea, I have to start by underselling it. I have to start by joking about the fact I have a podcast idea.
Yeah.
I have to like start by being like, I know. Can I tell you, like, wow, that's terrible. For the creative person, that's like a bad thing that we're doing. And I think there's a ton of that in improv and sketch and any kind of, and again, I get it. Maybe there is something of like, it is like being in high school and at some part you should graduate out and go to college and, do whatever. But I just think like, because some people are learning on the stage that I'm performing on, and not everything is great. I get that. You can make fun of there's bad improv. We can make fun of bad improv. We can make fun of bad anything. I get it. But to like make fun of a whole art form with being people who love the art form and did it for a long time and it got you where you are, it feels a little weird to me.
Yeah, well, maybe some of them are like people who didn't get as far in that as they wanted. Yeah, it's like the scorned lover, or like, or they did it in college, and so they do see it as like their silly younger days or whatever. Yeah. Isn't it interesting when you just said like, it's something that people did like in the past and that it should stay in college? Like everything else, kind of every other category, we treat the opposite, where it's like if you do it in college, then you go to pros and then you get better, and then like sports, music, like anything, film, it's like you make your student films, but then you move on and you become Steven Spielberg. Like, why is this seen as something you should abandon after? What if the art form could continue to get cooler and better and deeper and more inventive and more creative because everyone is like continuing to do it and continuing to build? Yeah.
This is a little bit off topic, but it reminds me so much. I got called out in a very fun way recently for not saying I got your back, like having that pattern, because I don't think of. To me, that doesn't do anything for me. Like, I don't feel like when I'm going out on stage, I'm going out on war. And like, I hope everyone has my back, because I'm going to be doing terrible things that aren't funny, and I need someone else to do a unfunny thing with me and support me. Like, that's not my point of view. My point of it, like, I'll more likely before a show be like, let's have fun, or I'm going to be silly, or like, I'm going to make you laugh, or I'm going to surprise you. Because to me, this is like play. Like, I'm going out and playing with my friends on stage to make this moment the most fun it can possibly be. So like, of course we can always just let kids do that if we want to. But I've seen enough, especially men in the life that I grew up, that are like lonely and sad and coping with other ways because they don't have friends, because they don't I want to have friends. I want to play. I really like laughing. I like laughing. I like making people laugh. I like when other people make me laugh. This is a thing. Cool. So I'm going to continue to follow this, and I'm not going to be like, boy, I sure was silly when I felt carefree. It's like, I don't know, why not be carefree right now? Why not have a blast right now? You know? I am aware that there's gonna be a time where like my knees are bad, my back's bad, and I'm sitting down in scenes a lot, and I'll be like, okay, how many more of these can I do?
Man, I taught some senior citizens when I was down in Florida visiting my mom, and there was a guy, I started the class with like, does anyone have any needs or anything we need to know? And one lady's like, I'm totally deaf in this ear, so all my scenes should be like on this side, and And this other guy was like, I had a stroke a month ago, and I don't want to get up out of my chair. I was like, great, we will bring all of your scenes to you. Yeah. When you have an idea, raise your hand. And it was awesome. He just sat in the corner, like leaning on his cane, and people would come over. If it was a sitting scene, they would drag a chair over. It was so sweet and lovely. Yeah. And I was like, oh, cool. I don't ever have to stop. That guy's like 90, and he was really funny. Yeah. And I was like, this is great. These are great scenes. I actually liked the movement of like, we're watching everything over here, and now the whole group is walking over and now sitting at this guy's feet and watching it over in this corner, and now we walk back over. It was so cool.
That is exciting.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah. I like that idea that like, it'll evolve what I do. Yeah. But that doesn't mean that it's bad.
No. Yeah. That means it's good. It's worth it. When you teach, what are your main what's your bag, or what's your identity as a teacher?
My big thing is like, we're two people in a scene. We're the improviser, or like the character that's in the scene talking to the other character, and we're the improviser playing that character. And so we're all very good, very quickly at communicating character to character. We got to figure out ways to connect improviser to improviser. We got to figure out a way to say, do you like this idea? Is that fun? Do you want to fuck around with this? Great, let's have fun with this. And I think that's...
And you do that by secretly writing a note and then slipping it to them when they're okay,
that's
great.
right,
Yeah,
yes.
that's your object work.
Yeah, it's just a lot. It's just like slowing down a lot. And then my big thing for me, I think at my worst, I am responding to other people making strong choices. And so I've found JV used to have a slot where we do a full hour. So we'd do storyteller would come out, we'd do 25 minutes of scenes, then we'd have a break while they came out and did another thing, and then we'd do 25 more minutes of scenes. And during that break, if I didn't like my first half, every single time I would say, play with emotion. Make things matter. Just care about stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't care if I love it. I don't care if I hate it. I don't care if I'm scared of it. Just have an emotion. Because I think that's what, when I can be my least favorite type of improv, is me not caring about stuff. Me not having an emotional reaction to it.
Yeah, I find myself in those scenes. It's like, ooh, I treaded water. I deferred too long, and now I'm just neutral. Like, because it's like, oh, it's too late to choose because I didn't care about it when they first said it, and I would have. And it's like, oh, God.
The worst thing is like something big happens, like an alien shows up or someone gets stabbed or whatever, and I'm just like, I don't know how my character feels about it.
Yeah, I can't decide fast enough.
I'm just here.
Yeah,
as opposed to like if I knew that like I loved something, then I could be like, an alien, wow, do I love that because I love this thing, or do I hate it because I love this thing? Or am I instead being like, well, I really love Teddy Grams, so I wish it was, yeah, cool, alien, but do you got any Teddy Grams? You know, like, I have the thing that I can play with. So to me, that's another thing I talk about a lot, is like, it's easier for me to heighten through emotion. It's easier for me to be more in love. It's easier for me to be more happy as the scene goes on. It's harder for me to write a funnier line than the line before it over and over and over again. So if we can play with emotion, then we can heighten with emotion. And those are things that I'm mostly talking about in my classes.
Right. Yeah. To heighten a joke or to heighten words or wit is a real project and very difficult. But to heighten emotion creates comedy anyway, and creates a more clear relationship.
Watching musical improv was a thing, and I didn't even do it, but just watching it gave me a lot of that, being like, the ones that I liked, I mean, some people were more impressive to me. Again, like Bill Maher style comedy, where it's like, that's good for you, I'll clap, but I'm not gonna laugh. Like they were rhyming words and they were like doing connects. I was like, I'm impressed by that. Wow. But what I would laugh about was clear emotion being played clearly, heightening or whatever. Just and someone could be doing great wordplay and could be nailing everything. And if I didn't know if they were happy or sad or afraid or whatever, then I just like usually would forget about it.
Right.
But there'd be one where I was like, I remember, I think it was Thomas Middleditch. In fact, I know it was Thomas Middleditch did one. I don't think he rhymed a single word, but it was just like, he was very much in love with the person he was talking to. And it was just like, yeah, that's so funny.
Yeah.
That emotion can continue to be a pattern.
Right.
And so that was a nice reminder to be like, okay, great. Yeah, care about stuff.
What are your favorite characters to play?
I like playing like confident dumb people. I like playing, I guess scenes that I really dig is like, I like a mix of premise and organic. But I really like when there's like a listening moment that pays off. I actually think of one scene that we did when we were up in Portland, and I think this was in the organic aspect, maybe not, but it was some initiation where you're like a job interview, hey, there's like nothing, you can't really say anything that you're going to get this job, there's like nothing you can, like, I think that might have been that. It's like, hey, thanks for coming, it's kind of formality, you're going to get the job, there's like really nothing you could say. And like, just like hearing that line of like, there's really nothing you could say, was like so fun to me. So I was like, what's like the worst thing I could possibly say?
Yeah.
And so I did. I came up with something that was like really gross. And like I love those moments. Like the audience, we hid the thing until the audience saw it, you know?
Yeah.
And I love those. I love I guess being surprised, like, because maybe I am a little bit like point guarding the show a little bit. I am like in the scene, but then sometimes also thinking about like, okay, we got a few minutes left. What was the best stuff from earlier? How can I connect here? Ooh, I was sitting down before and now we're sitting down again. So maybe I'm the same character. Maybe I'm in the same world. I like think about a lot of those like things. And so maybe when I can be surprised or when something is just like simple listening and payoff, I really dig those.
Yeah. I remember that scene. That made us both break.
Yeah.
That was one of those lines. It was like, oh man. Do you think you'll be how do I phrase this? We were talking in the beginning about like if we think we can get better or where the next step is. Do you think you would be a better improviser having more point guard in your head or less point guard?
I wonder. It's such a part now that maybe if I focused on it less, then maybe that would be helpful for scenes to like sometimes. But I think I do fall into scenes sometimes and kind of forget about the show as a whole. I I wonder, because I think ultimately it is kind of my skill set. Like I do think I like being a leader in some ways. I do like, and especially in my youth and like not really knowing how to communicate my wants and having to do a lot of it like secretly to get what I want, to like
What does that mean?
well, like to make everyone feel like they made the choice that I wanted everyone to make,
Whoa.
Yeah, it's exhausting. But I think that is something that maybe comes into my play a little bit of like the point guard aspect of seeing the thing.
What's a character type that you don't get to play very often or at all but that you would love to?
Ooh, I mean, I don't. I'm trying to find a nice way to say I'm not smart. Like I would like to do more things that don't take place in the current time, but I'm very reluctant to do it because I don't know dates and names and locations of anything. And then while I'm fine with the pattern being like making fun of me not being able to name the president or whatever, it does feel like kind of making a joke about the improv as opposed to the scene.
Yes.
And so
it's very like your school only has 2 chairs in it.
Yes,
yeah.
Exactly. And so I would love to do more of that. But like when I think, like if you said a year, what I think is like the picture in my head will be like truly nothing, like if someone's like 1582, then I'm like, someone on the street, I guess were cobbled streets back then. I just have no fucking idea of anything like that. And so my best version is then I can be like, well, there's still someone who was like embarrassed in 15 whatever the fuck. There's still someone who like really thought that wanted a hug from their dad, or
also like we're not walking around present day going like Joe Biden is the president and his cabinet members are.
Yes.
Like we don't.
Yes.
Yeah.
And celebrity famous people get in my head in the same way because I don't think I'm very character driven, but it's nice to remember that like, oh, even if I don't know anything about whoever they name me as, like Taylor Swift could like love Nutter Butters, and I could just talk about that the whole time, and like, but I feel like that sometimes feels a little bit like I'm not giving the audience what they were hoping for out of it.
So what is appealing to you about the idea of playing scenes in different times if you don't have the specifics?
Oh, just like being able to do, because it's like different. It feels different, like it's a whole different world. The specifics are different.
So having different simple specifics without having to have like historical, like you're not name dropping the king or whatever, but to be able to sit on a hay bale and pour someone a jug of a flagon of mead. That feels
fun to me. But I guess the real question is what I wish I could do more of. Probably is more like longer, slower, with the intention of it will be funny, but we're not even gonna focus on that.
Yeah.
Like I thought this show's not funny that we used to do was like such a great name for like what we were promising, which is like, hey, you can't get mad. And they were, of course, very funny shows, but it was like that's not what we're focused on. We're just going to try to focus on showing you real moments, and then by doing that, we'll show you how much fun there is in truth and blah blah blah.
Bring that show back.
Yeah.
That'd be great. I'd love to see it. Yeah. Do you have anything you would like to plug?
I got a bunch of stuff I'd love to plug.
Hit us.
This is like August-y, we think?
I think so.
Well, then Susie and I right now are in Edinburgh. We're about to go there, Edinburgh. We're doing shows for the last 11 dates of the Ed Fringe, the Fringe Festival, August 16th to the 26th at the Gilded Balloon Theater. The Dram is the specific theater, but you can go to the website or the app or whatever and get your tickets there.
And the show is just called Holy Shit Improv.
Holy Shit Improv. Yep, every night at 9 p.m. for those last 11 days. And then doing a bunch of shows around Los Angeles, and of course our Patreon. You can watch every show we've ever done. You will have missed. We have already done at this point our festival, which is like 11 and a half hours straight of improv from everyone you'd want to see is doing that festival. And then we're doing a show following that up with a show that we're doing, an all-ages improv show at UCB. We're inviting kids if they want to come, and we're going to try to not curse. And I think that'll be a fun, interesting show to see. And a bunch of other just like straight-up improv. Holy Shit, that we talked about a bunch in this, is 3 improv groups that are great, and you can watch all those on our Patreon, patreon.com, Holy Shit Improv. Follow us on Instagram. And then, JV does a show second Friday of every month at UCB. You can check that out as well.
What a great plug.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here.
Thanks.
Thanks.
No, I was just trying to think of. Sorry, I didn't mean to end it like that.
No.
If you have a question about improv that you would like me to ask a future guest, email it to yesalsopod@gmail.com and I will get it on the show. If you're a fan of the show, follow us on Instagram at yesalsopod. And please help us out by liking, rating, reviewing, clicking, sending, talking, and blasting us to your improv communities. That will help us out a lot. If you're a theater who would like to host us for a live recording and improv show, let us know at yesalsopod@gmail.com. A huge shout out to Ryan Rosenberg, who produced this thing with his generous help and his unlimited knowledge about all things podcast. Thanks for listening, and we will see you next week. No, we won't, Susie. That's not how podcasts work. They won't even see us. They will listen to us. So it's actually the opposite of both things you said. Thanks for listening, and you will listen to us next week. Maybe. We don't know.